It's PSG and Dortmund who go through after AC Milan beat Newcastle 2-1. What a game it had. Leaps and bounds, unbelievable twists and turns. At one point, Newcastle was qualifying. At one point, AC Milan had a chance, and ultimately they did get the 3 points in the end. But because of the head-to-head, I think, that PSG got, and they did get a point, they didn't lose PSG. They did end up going through. Dortmund and PSG, obviously them two are probably the favourites. Newcastle, I felt, were very unlucky. The first half, they controlled brilliantly. What a goal by Joelinton. Absolutely smashed into the top left. Had countless chances before that. It's a great pass into him. A great touch. And he bangs it in. And Newcastle deserve that. It's like they always get on you in St James's Park. It's an absolute hell of a ground to go to. Not many teams survive there. Even PSG's proved that. AC Milan obviously did go well to get the win. The holes opened up in the end because Newcastle had to get the 3 points. And I thought first half they controlled it very well. They was unlucky not to probably have 2 goals because of how many chances they created. But AC Milan have a response. And you look at their quality of players compared to Newcastle. I know Newcastle's midfield is a rock. Tonali's obviously not there, but the attack of Leao, Giroud and Pulisic, the pace, especially on the counter-attack, which is obviously where they got their goals from in the end. It's obviously Pulisic pulling one back at the time where PSG, I think, were 1-0 down, or it's 1-1. PSG Dortmund, so Newcastle, as it stood, were bloody through to the round of 16, but it weren't to be. Pulisic scrapes in a goal. It was a bit of a sloppy goal, that one, for Newcastle to concede. Leao was causing problems down the left. I think it was after Trippier went off and he had to make them subs. Not the best for Eddie Howe. There's a lot of injuries in there for Newcastle. It's just the games that they've played. Obviously, there's no Europa League now. I presume in the league they'll go higher up because, they've not got to play any European football. But there was definitely times where you felt they could have nicked something. I thought that, obviously, the Trippier going off, Isak coming on to up front, changed the system a bit, and they could have got a goal here and there. There was little minute bits where it was cut across to Callum Wilson, it was just past him, but certain little bits of play where they could have got a goal, as I've said, and it would have changed the game. But AC Milan really brought back into it. Their pace, their attackers played really well. Newcastle looked tired and knackered on their legs. And yes, they had a bit of ball, but when it was 1-1, AC Milan really controlled the game a bit more. And it was Rafael Leao who hit the post and could have ended it, but it ended up being, I think, Chukwueze, the substitute, a brilliant counter-attack. And he ends it, it slots it in, 2-1. Yeah, I thought Tomori was the best player because in the first half he stopped a certain goal. What a tackle against Almar. And then he goes on a bloody run and hits the post at the end to almost make it 3-1. PSG, realistically, they was comfortable. It was in their hands, weren't it? They just had to get a result, and ultimately they got let off a little bit because Newcastle lost. But I feel like, for Eddie Howe, he learnt a lot of stuff. AC Milan, I think they get Europa League now, so they drop down to Europa League. Good for them, they've kept European football. It's annoying for Newcastle. They could have got some form of football, but you have to say congratulations to AC Milan. I think Newcastle tried their best. It was just the away games where whoever it was, Dortmund, they lost to twice. Losing to Dortmund twice really hit hard home. It weren't meant to be, and that means that PSG go through Dortmund and flying. They've qualified. Man United obviously not qualifying. They've done worse than Newcastle. At least they ain't bloody lost all their games or whatever United did. I think they drew 1. That is absolutely shambolic. Ten Hag really needs to have a look at himself and look at his team of what they're doing. But the UCL brings all sort of occasions. I think Newcastle played really well in a lot of games. There's probably 2 games, as I said, against Dortmund where I thought they was under par. But you can't give chances up in the Champions League. And obviously they've had Pope out. Dubravka played okay, but it weren't meant to be. And Eddie Howe can really pat himself on the back for what he's achieved at Newcastle. Whether he gets sacked at the end of the season, I don't know. I think it depends on where they finish in the Premier League and if they win a trophy in the FA Cup or something like that. Because they are a team that, they're a bit like Liverpool in some ways. How they start the game looking on the front foot, pressing you, but at the moment they seem to getting a little bit tired. So Eddie Howe's got to sort it out. Will Newcastle stick with him? I feel like there's no available manager at the moment where, they'll switch it about. So he's probably good for a season as long as they don't finish 10th or something like that. Because then you might risk losing Bruno, Guimaraes, Tonali, all sorts of these players. But ultimately, I think the quality of players did them in, and there was going to be space in the game. The spaces opened up incredibly for both teams because they both need to win it. In the end, it was AC Milan. They got Europa League, and PSG qualified just. I don't see PSG as a challenger for the final of the UCL. I think it's Bayern Munich, Man City, maybe Barcelona, I don't know. And then Real Madrid, obviously, who are flying. I think they won all their games. Incredible stuff there. But the Champions League, wraps itself up nicely for Christmas, a Christmas present. Unfortunately, Newcastle going home with a bit of coal in their sack, but it is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't leave a like, subscribe. The round of 16 will be up underway in February. Hopefully, Villa can qualify in the Conference League because we're smashing it at the moment. Newcastle, we will give you a run for your money for the top 4 this season because that could be us next season. Villa versus bloody AC Milan going into the round of 16. Let's hope so, baby.